this computer. Okay, we're recording. All right, so we left off on this slide. We're talking about the inefficiencies of energy transformation. That is not efficient. Now we're going to move into photosynthesis. And I think most of us have we may not be experts on the details of photosynthesis, but I think most of us will know that it's a process in which plants and other autotrophs, plants, algae, and some bacteria convert sunlight energy into other forms of energy or other forms of other molecules like glucose. So in this picture here, it's just simply kind of showing you just the beginning portion, kind of laying out the foundation for the presentation. And here we see the sun, we have our light. I believe it takes approximately 8 minutes for sunlight to reach the earth. So if there were to be a supernova, or if the sun were to go through a malfunction, we would have light after it no longer functions or explodes. We would have light for approximately 8 minutes. So these leaves then conduct the photosynthesis, and one of the byproducts of photosynthesis is going to be glucose, that very important molecule, glucose. And glucose can be used to then make energy immediately. So they put this thing like that, bam, kind of like, to kind of get your attention. So it also can be, and this immediate energy can be used to conduct various cellular functions. So all the things that are required for the plant cell to function properly. It could also be used in storage. So that means that some of this glucose can then be stored, right? You can also have cell structures like the cell walls that can be used as well, and certain various chemical building blocks. There are 3 types of organisms that carry out photosynthesis. They are plants, algae, and some bacteria, for example, cyanobacteria, that conduct photosynthesis. So the sun is the ultimate source of energy for planet Earth, meaning no matter how you want to slice it or dice it, whether it's wind, whether it's geothermal, whether it's fossil fuels, whether it's natural gas, whether it's nuclear energy, when you really cut it all down to the basics, it is the sun that we cannot survive without, because we could have all the geothermal energy in the world, we could have all the windmills in the world, we could have all the fossil fuels that you could possibly imagine, but if you do not have light and we go long periods of darkness, we lose out our plant life. As a result, those who are, let's say, vegetarians, they lose plants. All the plants gone. Those that consume plants and animals, all the animals, herbivores, they're gone. And then other animals that eat other animals, they die. And that is the beginning of the end. So sunlight is very important. Autotrophs, think of automatic, happening automatically. Autotrophs, they capture and transform the energy of sunlight by photosynthesis. So plants are autotrophs. Algae are autotrophs. Some bacteria, like cyanobacteria, are autotrophs. Heterotrophs obtain energy by eating other animals. And that's kind of what I was talking about. So without light, you lose all your autotrophs and you lose all your heterotrophs. So game over. This is the most simple form of the equation to summarize photosynthesis that you'll probably ever receive. Believe me, it's way more complex than that. Plants have been around a long time, a very, very long time. And they quote, I'm doing my little air quotations, they figured out meaning evolve, right? Evolution. They figured out how to, hey, get this energy from the sun. So here are the three major ingredients that we begin with. We need sunlight, we need water, and we need carbon dioxide. Then they yield oxygen and glucose. So let's take a closer look at this. Just generally speaking, we have what you can call a two-step process. And if you kind of maybe draw a little line in between here, you can say you have your step one and your step two. In step one, what it involves, let's first, let me go back a little bit first. Let's look at this image first before we go into step one and step two. This is a plant cell. How do we know it's a plant cell? Well, we're talking about photosynthesis. Yes, I understand. But if I just showed you this picture, would you be able to tell that it's a plant cell? You should be, because it, first thing, you have this large organelle, which is called a vacuole. It looks almost like a large pond, right? Of course, it's sliced, so it doesn't just look like a pond because it's cut in half so you can see the inside. It has this large vacuole, so that we don't have that. Also, it has this, I consider it a large, not as large as the vacuole, but a chloroplast. So we are now looking into the chloroplast. So in the step one, we have light coming in here, and the chloroplast is going to capture this energy from sunlight. And during this process of trying to capture this energy, what happens is that water is going to be split. And in this process, it's going to release oxygen. We will take a closer look and we will dive into some things like electrons and NADPH. We'll get into that. But for now, this is the basics. So when you water a plant, the main reason, and we'll look at it once we start really looking a little bit more in detail, is because you need water to help grab this energy and split. Okay, it's going to make also an electron here. So we often think that, oh, it's like we just water it, we just watering because the roots need water and things. But this is the real reason why you water a plant. This is it right here. It'll make a little more sense once we dive into more details. Well, you have this step here, which is called the photo step, and oxygen is as a byproduct. We as humans and mammals need oxygen, so that's a good thing. And then you have this chemical energy, which is going to convert carbon dioxide. We breathe that out. Plants use it. And you're going to then make glucose. Or not you, but the plant, right? So we have light, water, carbon dioxide, making oxygen and glucose. Again, I'm just saying, this slide is the same picture here. It's just discussing some of the things I already said. We already talked about the chloroplast. We already talked about light energy. Now, one thing I maybe didn't quite emphasize is that, again, we are converting light energy to chemical energy like ATP, right? So we can make glucose, right? So light energy to chemical energy, and we are getting carbon dioxide into glucose. Let's just take a quick look at what light energy is. So light energy has you have your ultraviolet, you have the visible, and you have like infrared. So what we can see, or what they call visible light, is between 400 and 750. Okay, I won't be asking you this on the exam because I'm more focused on other things like the photosynthesis steps and things like that. But I'm not going to be asking you the math questions on visible light wavelengths, like in nanometers. Was it from 400 to 750? No. but I just want to expose you to it so you kind of, at least you've heard it. One of the interesting things is that leaves, they are absorbing most of the wavelengths. And one of the wavelengths that they are not absorbing in the visible light spectrum is the green. The green wavelength is then reflected off the leaf, and we perceive it as green. Here, this is just, it's kind of in a weird place where they put it. They just, I mean, this, where they put this, I would have put it maybe in the end of the chapter, but here it is. And what it's saying is that when plants and algae products are converted to fuel and they're burned, remember when I was telling you, I doubt that algae, biofuel, biomass is lighting up all the lights in New York City, right? You'll see later they make a comment that they're still working on the technology, that the carbon dioxide release is the same carbon dioxide that they took up in the photosynthesis process. So now we're going to then take a closer look at what we were talking about. Within the chloroplast, we have a pigment. So here we have like a pigment. We're not even going to get into the thylakoids or anything like that. So you're very fortunate that you don't have to really break it down into the nitty gritty and electron states and so forth. But we're just doing the basics. So we have a chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a pigment that's present in the green parts of the plant, i.e. the chloroplast. And it's responsible for absorbing light energy, right? And then we're going to try to convert it into chemical energy so we can make that glucose. So what happens is that as light moves in toward this chloroplast into the chlorophyll electrons become excited and they enter a series of reactions that generate energy carrying molecules called ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and the electron carrying molecule known as NADPH. And what they try to do, which I think is kind of cool, is they try to depict the energy carrying molecule NADPH in a little truck going in this direction, carrying the electron. And I think that's super cool because it's kind of like that. So again, what we have is water splitting during this light reaction, because we're not at a chemical, we're not chemical energy yet. So water is being used here, and that's why you water plants at this very moment, at this spot, at this event. That is the reason why you give plants water. It's water's the water molecules is then split and releases electrons that replace electrons lost by the chlorophyll molecules. You have the ATP, the NADPH, and then we have the synthesis part, or the step 2 part, right, that we called earlier in our slides. So what happens is energy from the breakdown of ATP. So we go from adenosine tri, meaning 3 phosphates, and then the bonds that are holding these 3, one of them's broken, and you're left with ADP, so adenosine diphosphate. That energy that was once holding those 3 phosphates together is the driving force used to make stuff. And electrons, right, these here, from the NADPH are used in the carbon reactions that what they call fix or convert carbon dioxide into this sugar molecule, glucose, which is super important. Most important sugar out there. Again, here are some of the byproducts, right? Oxygen due to the splitting of water. So right now, one of the reasons we are alive is because the sun is giving us light, and then plants have a chloroplast that then has chlorophyll, and then there was rain or water introduced to the plant that was able to split and create oxygen, and that is how we are breathing. There are no plants, there are no factories that are just making oxygen for us to breathe. This is by nature. So water is and sunlight are a major reason why we are actually breathing right now, because of this process right here. So plants are very important. Glucose, C6H12O6, super important sugar. Many roles, has many roles. I already went through this process here by talking here when I zoomed in. So I already went through this piece here. Feel free to read that portion again if you'd like. This is the left, called the left side, these 4 bullets, that's what I'm talking about. I've already discussed these 3 bullets as well. So if you'd like, feel free to read those again. And one thing I have not said to you, and that's bullet 1, which is right here. This process of photosynthesis is converting an inorganic gas, carbon dioxide, into an organic molecule. Just wanted you to know that. Okay, just wanted you to know that. And photosynthesis is a main way carbon enters the global energy chain. So those are 2 things. I've already addressed this, but I didn't quite use the word inorganic and organic. And then I just addressed this 3rd point right now. Again, this is why I think this slide and the other slide where you saw the pond could have gone together. And maybe later when I get time, I'll put together. These algae biofuels are at the prototype stage. They're still in development. We still have a ways to go, ladies and gentlemen. We still have a long way to go. But they so far are looking promising. And I think it's a very cool technology. Why not? Why not, right? We have water, we have places to grow the algae. I think it's a great thing. Also, the algae, as I talked about the cell wall, like we're not, it doesn't mention it here, but I'm almost positive that some of that cell wall biomass was used to create this type of surfing board. So look at the materials that's made out of this. So that's kind of a cool thing. And here is our summary of it. Remember, all living organisms, it doesn't matter what it is, require energy. Bacteria require energy. So in order to live and to grow, again, the ultimate source of energy on Earth is the sun. Without it, game over. First law of thermodynamics, energy is neither created nor destroyed. It can be transformed from one form into another. During this transformation process, heat is lost. During this transformation process, it is not 100% efficient. Kinetic energy is energy in motion. Potential energy is stored energy. When we release energy in our bodies, it's due to movement of molecules and also due to energy being released during the transform of energy from one form into another. Photosynthesis, series of reactions, its overall goal is to capture sunlight and convert it into chemical energy, ATP, and to use that energy to then form that sugar, which is glucose, right? What are the byproducts of photosynthesis that are very important for us? With the splitting of water, you have oxygen, and we also have that glucose. What are the inputs of photosynthesis? Sunlight, carbon dioxide, and water. Basics, right? We're not getting into, okay, soil quality, elements, salts, nitrogens. We're not doing that. But just for this class, the basics, inputs for photosynthesis, sunlight, water, carbon dioxide, outputs oxygen and glucose. Photosynthetic organisms like plants, algae, and cyanobacteria are known as autotrophs. Animals do not conduct photosynthesis. They are known as heterotrophs because we, for example, us humans, species, we do not have that cool organelle known as the chloroplast that has chlorophyll. So that is the end of the presentation. Do you have any questions? Do you like any questions so far? So that took us about an hour to cover that last portion. This last presentation is about an hour lecture. So are you sure you have no questions? Everything makes sense. Because if that's the case, then I'm the greatest professor of all time. Or some of you are shy, you're not too sure yet because you maybe need to go over the content some more. Well, that's chapter 5. That's chapter 5. Now, most of you, well, I guess I'm going to stop recording to save the data so it won't take so long to load up. So just letting everybody know, I am going to end the recording now. I'm going to communicate a little bit more. I'm just going to end it since our presentation is done and we didn't really seem to have many questions.